before Reverend Covington before I speak anymore.
Hello, my name is Reverend Mary Covington. I was born in Jackson, Mississippi, before the days of Dr. King. That's all I'm going to take her age. I was raised in Detroit. And I proudly say I went to the Detroit public school system when it was at the best. Not this debacle that it is now. I'm a graduate of Cass Technical High School, science curriculum, a graduate of Wayne State University. I had a dual raising because for some strange reason, my parents decided that every summer I could go home to Mississippi to stay with my grandparents, which happens to be something that was frequent, almost common within the Black community at that time. As a matter of fact, I noticed later while I was doing social work that in many families that had made their grand exodus out of the South, one child was left with the grandparents, who blended into the grandparents' family so thickly that it may never have been reclaimed as the child of its parents. Rather, it was grandma's kid. And I was almost that way. But I think during this travels back and forth to Jackson, Mississippi, I gained some insight into some things. Well, first of all, before we left Mississippi, my parents had worked, well, my father worked for the state of Mississippi at the School for the Blind, the white blind kids. Now, I always ask myself, I don't know how kids knew who was colored and who was white. That was somebody else's decision. My mother worked in what they used to call private family as housekeeper maid. And I don't know if you know, but in the South of those years, you were allowed as children to play together until you were about 12 years old. And so my father had some harrowing experiences of trying to get little Mary Elizabeth to come home, but she was coming around with the Harris kids in their bed. And he was reprimanded for breaking up their playtime. Mom always told me that nobody's any better than you, based on your skin color or not. And the one episode that I can remember as a kid during that summer period was when I was walking up to what had been my old neighborhood. This kid, probably the same age or just a little older than I, white kid, called himself taunting me. But he was so, pardon my French, ignorant. The only thing he could think of to call me was chocolate. Well, to me, chocolate was good. But since he wanted to play taunts, the only thing I could think to call him was a saltine cracker. So you see how early this stuff is started. I grew up down there in the era where there were separate drinking fountains for white and colored. There were separate waiting rooms at the train station for white and colored. You boarded the train separately, which meant you sat in separate cars. However, in my travels back and forth to Mississippi, I was always well taken care of because I would notice these porters coming through the car, glancing at me, going on, and I realized later that they had been friends of my grandfather. Granddaddy worked for the Illinois Central Railroad, and so when he knew that I was on my way down, or on my way back for that matter, he sent word, and so someone was always keeping their eye on me, in addition to Travelers Aid Society. Growing up in Detroit was marvelous because even though we moved so many times, I had school cards up to Kahoo. Okay, take this card with you, Mary Elizabeth, to your next school. The emphasis was more and sometimes it was like misplaced. I remember being put in a classroom of mixed aptitude at one of the local schools because of where I lived. The teacher seemed to recognize that we all had different aptitudes, and she was able to make her, what we would now call class plans, apply. But the school itself was for handicapped students, educationally handicapped. So I was glad when we moved away from there. I later, after graduating from high school and with some college, became the caseworker for the City of Detroit Welfare Department. My basic caseload was the Brewster projects, the Brewster Douglas projects. Brewster being the low-rise and Douglas being the high-rises. Well, everybody always thinks now about, oh yeah, that's where Dr. Ross came from. But there was a different mentality when they had established the Brewster homes originally. They were established with the African American community in mind. But you had to pass muster in order to get in there. You not only applied, you had to come with referrals. You had to have a background check. And one of those referrals needed to be from your church pastor. And people were placed in there according to moral, quote unquote, standards of the time. So many of those people who had lived there for many years told me that they really did not consider themselves as poor as we would now. Because another thing that the Brewster homes did was when you made above a certain amount of money, you had to move out. My aunt and uncle got kicked out because he had made too much money at Ford Motor Company that year. That was a blessing for them. What did my mother teach me? Well, first of all, I have to pause and tell you that my father was a stickler for time. I thought about him when we were getting this started. My father was what we would now call an entrepreneur. We moved north so he could pursue his dream of owning his own business. He worked for Packard Motor Company long enough to save his money to buy him a truck. And he began the moving and hauling business in Detroit. And his motto was, in his own prejudiced way, colored people ain't got no regard for time. If you're gonna be somewhere, be on time. No, be ahead of time. And so when I was supposed to be at school mass at 8 o'clock in the morning, Daddy thought I should be there at 7:45. My mother also told me, if you want a friend, you must be a friend. I find that very ironic because years later when I became a Girl Scout, they had a very interesting song that they taught us. Make new friends, but keep the old. One is silver, the other is gold. And that was one of the first songs that I began teaching my daughter as she was growing up. And then as she became a Brownie Scout, and they didn't have a scout leader, so they grouped me into that. I became the Brownie troop leader. Well, we learned that song. I also want to share with you, parents teach you by example also. And to me, the most humorous example was what my grandmother had taught me, by example. And I didn't realize it until I was married. My husband and I got up one morning and he said, well, I got some time. I don't have to be at my meeting until such and such a time. Let me help you make up the bed. Oh, what a generous offer. So as I reached over to get the bed linens and start straightening it up, he reached for the shades and started raising them, letting the light in. And I said, "What are you doing? The room's not ready for the day." And he looked at me and he said, "The what? Ain't what?" I said, "The room's not ready for the day." And as he looked at me, I realized that I had been trained in a certain way by my grandmother, my mother's mother, that there was a way that you organized your room in the morning. You got up, you did your toileting, you returned to the room. You got dressed. In the meantime, the bedding was airing. Then you made the bed, and when the room was straight, you raised the shade. You opened the door to the bedroom because that signified that the room was ready for the day. Oh, because you see, in my family, you only went back to that room if you were ill to lay down. Because otherwise, that's all it was for. I sometimes used to think my grandma wanted it to look pretty, but to sleep. So the room had to be ready for the day. That's how we got taught by example. And the other habit she got me into were the J.C. Penney linen sales. In August, it is prescribed that J.C. Penney is going to have a linen sale. Well, I was a short stuff at that time. So Grandma would take me downtown to J.C. Penney's in Jackson, Mississippi, with all of these women hovering over this pile of sheets on sale. And she said, "Okay, now you just shoot in there and put your hand out and grab one and come on out." So, "Grandma, what if I get the wrong one?" "Won't matter. Just get one. I'll look it over, and if it's the wrong one, we can toss it back. Go in there." And so once a year, that's how she refreshed her linen supply. And then when I get thirsty, I have to walk around Penny's and find the drinking fountain for the color. It amazed me in some places that the white community had two drinking fountains to our one. And certainly as we were traveling, we ran into that. We used to motor home for Christmas. And it was a hard motor sometimes because there were no gas stations beyond the Mason-Dixon line that had restrooms. Finally, we found one in Memphis, Tennessee. Oh, it was popular because they would advertise on the highway, colored restrooms. I always found that humorous because I wanted to know what color they were. And to this day, I do have a problem from time to time about the terminology white. What color is white? You're not white, you're pink. Because I've had church members at our convention who've objected to our terminology of black. You're not black. Well, guess what? You're not white. You're pink. And if you notice when I talk, I do use terminology interchangeably. Because I've grown up in America at a time when we were politely colored, Negro, African American, and a few other things. My mother taught, and father, but mother basically taught me self-respect. You're as good as anybody else. And the thing that I appreciate the most about her now is the fact that she was my pal. Not my friend as such, but pal in the sense that if I could tell her what I wanted to do, Mom, I'd like to take piano lessons, she would find that resource and make it happen. And those were the things that colored my life, and I think made it better. So that now, I'm semi-retired, ordained minister. I used to pastor the Unity Church in Flint when it was in Schwartz Creek. I moved up here 18 years ago to pastor. Left that when I had a health challenge. And I've been an independent speaker, among other things, since then. And now I am for 17 years, I have been a founding board member of the Burton Glen Charter Academy in Burton, Michigan.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you. Now, it would be nice if we could get our audience involved. I know you didn't really come here just to sit and look and spectate. No. No. If you know me, that's not happening. I'd like to get some of those things from you that your mother gave you. If it wasn't your mother, it was your grandmother. Grandmothers were very, very influential in the Black, the Hispanic, any place there were people of color. The grandmother is the matriarch. She is the one who tells the family what is to happen and when it is to happen. So please, don't nobody volunteer, I shall volunteer. Yes, ma'am.
I've lived in Flint all of my life. I'm 72 years old and currently I'm raising 2 grandkids. One boy is 16, he has autism. The other boy is 12 and a half, and he's just playing badass. But things my mother taught me. Basically, if we had to work twice as hard, we get half as much. And she also tried to teach me about a perceived place, especially when it pertains to dating. I grew up in the St. John Street area. Often spent the night at Slavic people's, Czechoslovakian, Yugoslavian, Hungarian, Mexican houses. So I didn't never quite get it. Needless to say, I married home. I married home, you know. But it's been a good life. I just retired from General Motors 2004 after 40 years. And was having a pretty good time until 2 grandkids, his father decided that he could no longer take care of them. Brought them one January night. He said, "Here." So, yeah. And it's all good. The one boy who has autism, he's got a 3.8 grade point average at Southwestern. The other boy, he started to turn around, even thanked me tonight for dinner. And he's never done that. But, my parents came here in the 30s.
From?
Dayton, Ohio. As I understand it, I was never actually told this by them, but I kind of put things together, is that my dad would have been considered kind of upper middle class, and my mom came from a family of several siblings. Her father was deceased when she was 10. Her mother was a diabetic. So back then, there was no social welfare. She was born in 1906. The best that you could hope for was for a good white family to come in and to not really adopt the kids, but kind of to rescue them. And my mother was one of those that got rescued. As a result of her being rescued, I can remember she said the woman's name was Miss Margos, and it's weird that I would remember that. And they owned a clothing store. They were German Jews. I didn't realize that not all black people could speak German. You know, I can remember bringing a girl home for lunch, and we had spinach soup. And I thought homemade spinach soup was just awesome. Well, she went back and she told all of my black friends how weird we really were. But that's pretty much it.
Thank you for sharing. Someone else, please.
Can I stand up so I can?
Sure.
Okay. I don't want to have my back to y'all, but I'm talking to them. I was born 76 or so years ago in Monroe, Michigan. And it was a de facto segregated hometown. My father's hometown, as a matter of fact. So, the family had been there a long time. When I was in 6th grade, my dad got a new job in Texas, at Texas A&M University. He had been an educator, was an educator all his life, or a school counselor. And he went to Texas A&M to become a trainer of foremen in various manufacturing facilities. And we drove to our new home. After a while, when we stopped to eat in a restaurant, I started noticing some signs on the wall that were different than the ones I'd been reading up until that time. And they said, we reserve the right to refuse service to anyone. Oh. Asked Mom and Dad, what does that mean? And they said, it means they won't serve. I think the word in that time was Negroes. They won't serve Negroes. When we got to Texas, I went to the one school that College Station, the home of A&M, operated, and everybody went there, kindergarten through high school. There were African American students, and they're not in our school, however. They went to a separate school. But there were Mexican descendant people. And I sensed that there was racism there too, even though, we were blended to that degree. My 7th grade Texas history teacher somehow thought it was necessary to stand up in front of our class and justify his marriage to a Mexican-American woman. I don't know why. There may have been something happening, in the adult world that prompted that whole thing. But to this day, I just kind of marvel that he thought he needed to explain to 7th graders why he had married his wife. I heard people say something about they would rather go to school with Mexicans than with other people of color, African Americans. That kind of made me sit up and take notice. I did see at a Presby store that whites were served before blacks who were in line before the whites got there. I observed signs at drinking fountains, white colored, signs at restrooms, white colored. But my mother especially, because my dad was really a very active guy. He was out in the community when he wasn't working his job, so my mother gave us the moral lessons to live by. And she did it by words, but she also did it by deeds. And we never were allowed. We wouldn't even thought of using some of the terms to refer to people of color or to people who came into our community as refugees from Europe after World War II that my father taught. She would make positive remarks about things such as, let's see, Sam Bates. He was elected, I think, vice president of our class, African American fellow. When she met Mrs. Etheridge at a locally owned family-run grocery store where she liked to shop, she would talk with Mrs. Etheridge. She considered her a friend. And Bob Etheridge was in my English class. We were all in college prep together. Those were the days when, well, people are still trapped, aren't they? But we called it college prep in those days if we were headed for university or college, something beyond high school. Made me laugh, would tease me unmercifully, sit right behind me in English class and tease me. Fortunately, not when we were supposed to be listening to the teacher, because then we'd have all been in trouble. But I have very happy memories of that class because those guys were fun, real fun. Somebody, and I don't know who, and I don't know when, gave me an African American doll, a cloth doll, a girl, with her hair in little braids and little yellow and white gingham bows on the end of each braid, and a yellow and white gingham dress, and I think maybe some bloomers or shorts or something. And so, even though we didn't talk about racism in our family really, I consider that I did not get a racist upbringing, although certainly I can't claim I've not been influenced by racism around me. So, from Mom, I learned, I think, those lessons about treating others as you wish to be treated, even though perhaps she never actually said that to me. She certainly said other things that supported that notion, and she lived it. And so here I am today.
Thanks,